Hello, so I'm here in County Westmeath speaking to what might be described maybe as a kind of a citizen lawyer, because this is Patrick McGreal, and Patrick McGreal is pursuing a number of legal cases, particularly relating to IPAS centres around Ireland. And so, Patrick, may I ask you your story? How did you get involved in this kind of legal work in general?
Yes, well, it all started in November 2021. I experienced discrimination from Westmeath County Council in terms of my an application I had gone in with them for social housing, and over a few months, I realised that discrimination is a crime. You can go to jail for up to 2 years if you discriminate against somebody and be fined upwards of nearly €30,000. Now, at the time, I didn't know how to pursue it, so I just made complaints in with Westmeath County Council. And the minute I started complaining, the council started sending out lots of forms to fill out, and a lot to do with my wages. I was self-employed at the time as a greengrocer, and they falsified my income. They did that. Afterwards, I found out that to deprive me of provisions that were there. And especially in 2022, when things were pretty bad with inflation, I really felt it. So going on through 2022, I made various complaints to the council on those bases. They breached my personal data, they falsified my income, they discriminated against me, and they just weren't adhering to their own rules. And they didn't even return the complaints the way they ought to. And then I made higher complaints within the council concerning the internal review board, and nothing happened there. So I contacted my local councillors, and still nothing happened. My local TDs, nothing happened. And then I engaged with the oversight appeals bodies. And after 2 to 3 years, just under 2 years of investigation by most of them, some of them sided with the council against the evidence concerning the data protection, and others verified the complaints but didn't hold the council to account. And I found out that data breach is a crime, falsification of income is a crime, discrimination is a crime. So last year I went down to Westmeath County Council and I attempted to arrest 5 public servants under Section 4 of the Criminal Law Act. They hid in their offices, they locked the doors, the guards were there but they didn't do anything productive. So after 3 days I figured out that no, these people aren't going to adhere to the law. So then I started educating myself about how to get a summons, how to summons people to court, and how to present the evidence to a judge and prosecute the complaint myself. And under Section 10 of the Petty Sessions Ireland Act, we can make a complaint to a district court judge on oath. And that means if we write it down and put our oath on it, the judge is obliged under the law to give us a summons. This particular judge in Mullingar, actually 3 of them, wouldn't give me the summonses. Judge Bernadette Owens, Judge Susan Fay, and Judge Shalom Binchy. They acted outside their statutory remit as judicial officers. So I educated myself more about the Petty Sessions Ireland Act, and I found out that a peace commissioner is vested in the same authority as Justice of the Peace and can issue a summons as well. There are 7,000 peace commissioners in Ireland, and they nearly have as much authority as the district court judge when it comes to summonsing people to court to face formal accusations. That's what the people in the public domain fear the most. They fear being summoned into a court of law and being prosecuted by a member of the public, taking a private prosecution, and especially if that member of the public can raise a jury of 12. That's our access to justice. And that's what's been denied to most people in Ireland, because we have to seemingly engage with the guards, the DPP, to access justice, but we don't have to access justice through the guards.
So can I act the devil's advocate? I'm just
Yes.
saying you're describing there that there's some kind of corruption in the court system and that the judges aren't to be trusted.
Yes,
but,
without a doubt.
But in which case, why would you go into the courts then? You know?
I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
It was only afterwards I experienced it.
Yeah.
So for 4 months I engaged with the local district court through the Petty Sessions Ireland Act, but at the time I didn't know the law as much as I did know now. They were using statutory instruments to put my summonses request away. So I went in under Section 10 of the Petty Sessions Ireland Act. They were dealing with my summonses under Order 15 of the District Court Summonses Rule, which is a statutory instrument which gives the judge discretion, right? So given a judge discretion, especially when it comes to swearing information on oath, for the purposes of issuing a summons to initiate a criminal prosecution is a big problem. Because if, in my case, I went into the judge asking her for summonses for 4 public servants, and she had the books of evidence and everything, and she still wouldn't give me the summons, right? So, yes, it's corrupt. It's totally corrupt from the bottom of the court up until the High Court. This is my Court of Appeal books here.
Wow.
I got them there a week ago. They're from the Information Commissioner. Last week, Justice Noonan, Justice Faherty, and Justice Meehan granted the Information Commissioner ultra vires provisions, which enables him to act outside his statutory authority, and that's in direct confrontation to the separation of powers doctrine, which is enshrined in the Constitution of Ireland. I'm going to the Supreme Court now. Well, I'll be bringing that evidence into the Supreme Court.
So you went to the High Court, and that's the Court of Appeal, and now
I went to the High Court, and Justice Alexander Owens sided with lies from the Information Commissioner. His barrister, Claire Hogan, barrister of law, very educated person, just told complete lies in the court, and Justice Owens was duped into believing the lies.
And just for the sake of the listeners, was that like, so you were pursuing the case against Westmeath County Council, and you went to the information under freedom of information request?
Yes, I'll tell you what happened, right? Westmeath County Council committed multiple crimes against me, and I never realised how to pursue the crimes they did until I started educating myself about the law. But early on I got advice from Mercy Law through a solicitor to ask for my freedom of information, ask for my information from the council, my records. Yeah. I put a request in September 2022. The council came back at the end of September and said, gave me some records and said that was it. And I said, guys, there's a lot more records than that belonging to me with all the emails we've sent back and forth. And they says, no, that's everything. And then after an internal appeal, they still said that I gave all the records. I then contacted the Information Commissioner, who initiated a review under Section 22(2) of the Freedom of Information Act, which he reviews the decision by the public body. Yeah. The decision by Westmeath County Council at that time said that no more records existed. So after a month of the Information Commissioner getting involved, Westmeath County Council then released a further 280 records to me. Wow. Right? So it was a substantial release of records. Yeah. And then the Information Commissioner finished his review, but he affirmed the original decision of Westmeath County Council, which stated no records existed. Good. And I was going through a hard time at the time because a lot of this was kind of stressing me out and that. So I didn't look at the Information Commissioner's decision for the first 3 weeks, and I had 4 weeks to appeal it. Yeah. So in the last week I looked at it and says, oh, that's completely wrong.
So you appeal it to the High Court, is it?
Yeah, so I appealed the Information Commissioner's decision to the High Court on the fact that you cannot affirm a false decision. Yeah. Right? And the Information Commissioner had 3 choices to make under Section 22(2). That's to affirm a decision, vary a decision, or annul decision. Now, the only thing he couldn't do under that section was to affirm it, because the records were released afterwards. Yeah. But I didn't know, I couldn't articulate that in the High Court. All I could articulate in the High Court was the Information Commissioner acted outside 22(2) of the Freedom of Information Act, and you cannot affirm a false decision.
So it went then from the High Court to the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
And you're just back now, you've got the records back from the Court of Appeal, and now you'll go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so in the High Court case, what happened on the 23rd of January, and it was a complete injustice in the High Court. The Information Commissioner misrepresented the law, and especially the statutes that he works under, and the judge was hoodwinked into believing an argument from a barrister about case law. Like, there's no case law in Ireland that provides ultra various provisions to any civil servant, otherwise it's outside the law, right? Yeah. What's the point of having a law when somebody can give you a get out of jail for free card? Yeah. So anyway, I appealed that decision to the Court of Appeal. That hearing was held on the 26th of July, just a week or so ago, and actually this day last week. And the 3 judges gave me their decision a few days ago that they were affirming the High Court's order. So now I have a High Court judge and 3 Court of Appeal judges who breached Article 6 of the Constitution of Ireland.
Okay, so now it comes to, you were mentioning the statutory instruments,
Yes.
and you saw that came into the whole question of IPAS centres.
Oh yes, statutory instruments in Ireland, for the most part, are made by ministers, and they're there to fulfil a role. But in these particular statutory instruments, they bypass parent acts. So I was watching the footage of Newtown Mount Kennedy and the abuse that the Gardaí were levying on the people down there, pepper spraying children, battering them. I realised that what's the legislation that underpins all this, right? Because in Ireland, we have legislation that underpins everything we do, right? So I looked into the IPAS centres, and very quickly I spotted that all of these places are exempt from all planning and development provisions, completely exempt. And first of all, I realised that goes against the Parent Act, because you cannot enact a major law like the Planning and Development Act and then scribe down statutory instrument to bypass all the sections in that law.
Yeah.
That's completely unlawful, it's unconstitutional, and it's illegal as well. The creation of the statutory instrument actually infringes on 3 criminal sections of law.
So when was this statutory instrument written?
Yeah,
the one that exempts them all from planning permission.
This particular one was written on the 19th of July 2023, and it was the 4th of its kind by Dara O'Brien. Dara O'Brien knowingly created a statutory instrument to bypass a Parent Act, and that's dishonest. Because when we vote when these acts full acts go through the Oireachtas, they have to travel through the Seanad and the Dáil, and they have to go up to the President's office and get signed off by the President if there's no constitutional issues with them. But Dara O'Brien just basically took what was a perfect act to abide by and walked all over it. And what he did that moment in time was he took the provisions away from the people of Ireland to seek legal recourse when these IPAS centres just spring out of nowhere.
So you're appealing, is it for judicial review of the signing of the statutory instrument, or you're on the High Court then on
that? Yes, the High Court case is an injunction, was for an injunction against the use of the statutory instrument. That was an emergency injunction. That didn't. The judge was of the opinion that it wasn't an emergency, and he didn't grant the injunction. But he did give leave to notify the responding parties, the Minister of Housing and the hotel owner.
And you actually had something like 30 affidavits, was it?
301 affidavits.
300.
Actually, 302 include my own.
And some of them are there, are they?
Well, no, they're all filed up in the High Court. This is the statement of grounds.
Yeah.
That's a 17-page statement of grounds that verifies that the statutory instrument that was created is unlawful. It provides ultra various provisions to the Minister of Integration. Ultra various mean beyond the authority. Yeah. So the Minister of Housing, in his delegated capacity as a minister of the legislative body. Now, the 15 ministers of the state, they're executive officers, right? And the Oireachtas and the President's office, they're part of the legislative, right? But when a minister signs off a statutory instrument, he does it through delegation. So the Oireachtas delegates that part to the minister. So the statutory instrument is put before the Oireachtas, and under a resolution, they pass it, and then he signs it into power. So what happens there is that's a subordinate legislation, but that legislation has to have a parent act, and that parent act is the Planning and Development Act, which it attaches to, but it cannot override that act.
So would it be fair to say, now the government have very consistently stated that no local community has what they call as a right of veto for any kind of development like this in their locality. So would you be of the opinion that traditionally in Ireland, in fact, local communities did indeed have effectively a right of veto?
The government took out the veto, well, if you want to call it that. Section 10s and Section 20s, which are mentioned in the Statement of Grounds, provide the local community with legal recourse. So, for example, when these things are decided to come into the area, the community has engaged, community engagement, infrastructure, all of these things are part and parcel of the Planning and Development Act, and through this statutory instrument, the government has taken that away from the local communities.
Yeah.
So it's basically their way or no way. So the government themselves have created a situation where the local communities do not have a veto, when under the law, they had it before.
So can you describe now, you went to court with 300 and something?
2 affidavits, yeah.
302 affidavits, and what did the court say?
The court, first of all, couldn't cope with the affidavits. We went into the stamp office first. They weren't even going to stamp them because they said there's too many here. And I said, we had to argue with the court staff to stamp the affidavits, and it's €20 per affidavit. And
Wow.
the people of Dundrum got together and raised that over €6,000 just to file the affidavit, right? So after a while, actually arguing with the manager and threatening legal action on him, they actually did their job then, right? And then we went into the central office to file them, and again we were met with resistance. Oh, we can't file these too long, you need an appointment. So we were met with resistance there, but again, after threatening legal action, they filed them, they done their job. And then we brought them in front of the judge and Judge Highland first, and they don't like to see a large group of people coming into the court from the country or from anywhere else, whether it's a town or a village or a city, because what happens then is they start realising people are starting to exercise their rights. We had guards running around after us, asking us who are we and where were we from and what are we doing here, right? What are we up in the High Court of Ireland exercising our rights? Who do we think we are? We're the people of Ireland trying to access justice. So anyway, we went into Justice Highland, and she's actually going to the Court of Appeal. I don't think she's a fair judge. She's very partial. She doesn't make any decisions that are in the interest of justice, maybe to suit herself in her career and that. But she took the case in, and she put it back then for a couple of days. She started actually practicing bench from the law, practicing law from the bench. She went into the position of being the defendant's solicitor, arguing against our case, right? And judges don't do that. Judges are meant to do the veil and keep the ears opened and not worry about who's standing in front of them. But unfortunately, in Ireland, we have very partial judges who are nominated into government, not nominated into their position by members of the government. So, are they going to bite the hand that feeds them? I don't think so.
So in other words, they didn't give any great heed anyway to
Not at all, no. High Court judges in this country and Court of Appeal judges in this country are bought and paid for. Full stop.
So 302 citizens.
I don't know about the Supreme Court yet, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah, but I mean, 302 citizens out of a population of must be only 500 a max.
Oh, no, the population is only 230. So there were 70 people who are from the extremities, who maybe come into the village and shop. And so the whole community was up in the court on Monday, and the judge basically turned her back on that community.
And that number of people is setting up even a 24-hour encampment outside the hotel, and that's not a matter of urgency.
Yeah, it's absolutely diabolical what the justice system in this country has become. It's become the lapdog for the executive, and unfortunately, you would want to call them a gang. There's a gang of solicitors and barristers working within the Oireachtas called OPLA. They're called the Oireachtas Parliamentary Legal Advisors. They started their position in there 20 years ago, 2 or 3 of them, and they were brought in by the Secretary Generals. And the Secretary Generals, remember, hold the purse. They control the money in the government. They brought in these barristers into the situation, and they have corrupted the Oireachtas. They work from within the Oireachtas. And unfortunately, our ministers are mere puppets. They just stand out in front of the stage, and they are worked by the or by the civil servants who orchestrate everything from behind, and the NGOs. Look, at the end of the day, we have the right to exercise our rights. And if An Garda Síochána started helping people to exercise their rights tomorrow, this country would change immediately, because that means these so-called civil servants and public servants would get their act together and do their job, otherwise they'd be prosecuted. Now, I have found the law that allows me to prosecute public servants, but like I said, it's complete resistance. I go into the court, I got peace commissioner summonses issued, and I got summonses issued by a peace commissioner, and the judge even went against a peace commissioner summons. She put the state solicitor in Mullingar, this is Judge Bernadette Owens, she put the state solicitor in Mullingar, Peter D. Jones, up against my lawful issued summonses, and for 2 months Jones tried to find fault with them, and he couldn't. They were brought in, and she attached a statutory instrument to the summonses, unlawfully attached a statutory instrument, and she struck them out.
But again, you see, if I was just to do the devil's advocate, if I was to take your advice and pursue things to the courts, we'd only end up with the same experiences.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have compiled the cases. I have the judge now, because she didn't adhere to the law, Judge Bernadette Owens, has committed 12 indictable crimes. So every summons that she struck out, she committed 3 indictable crimes. And I'm summoning her to her own court. Now, how does that work?
There you go. So
how do I summons a judge to their own court?
I don't know.
You get them to stand down off the bench.
Yeah.
Get another judge up there.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Well, you're obviously pursuing this, doing good work, and I'd like to thank you for all your efforts, especially getting 302 affidavits of
Well, that's the community of Dundrum pulled together. I went down 10 days ago, and I shared with them my situation with statutory instruments, and I shared with them how they can exercise their rights and pursue justice. They're the ones that got their community together. They're the ones that set up the town hall, got commissioner votes in over 1 day, over a 3-day period. They had tables down there. People would come in and they'd sat down and they'd write out. Some people sat on a 1-page affidavit. Other people put in their personal statements into it. This is the people exercising their rights. And
it's probably unique in Irish planning applications, isn't it? 302 affidavits from a village of that size.
I'll tell you what's unique about it. Exercising your rights.
Yeah.
It's one thing in this country that people need to do, and they need to do it every single day of the week, because they need to do it against members of An Garda Síochána who walk all over their rights, the DPP who decide not to prosecute crimes because they don't want to, judges who do not adhere to their judicial oath. It's up to the people to exercise their rights and to learn the legislation, to know what the guidance in the Constitution of Ireland provides, and to get into the courts and not be afraid to stand up against corrupt judges like Owens and
okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this interview? Anything else you'd just like to...
I'd just like to tell people to get in touch if you need to know about exercising your rights. If you're experiencing any form of corruption levied against you by anyone who's in paid employment by the state, they are paid to deliver your constitutional rights. And when they don't deliver your constitutional rights, no matter what they are, they commit an indictable crime. And all you have to do is identify that crime, make a complaint to a peace commissioner, summons them to court, raise a jury of 12, and prosecute them in front of your peers.
There you go.
That's what they're afraid of.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Patrick McGreal.